Hey guys, today on JD Cars, I'm going to be showing you how to vinyl wrap your interior trim, and I'll be demonstrating the process on my 2012 BMW F30. Alright, so as I'm about to bring all this trim over to the workbench here, I was starting to lay out the door handle trim here, and this is a nice clean open space to wrap. We have the vise to assist with holding things, but as you can see, very windy and cold outside, just about freezing out here, and that's really not optimal temperature to be working with our vinyl wrap. So I'm gonna grab all of our trim, grab the rest of the trim out of the car and bring it into the heated basement. Ideally, you wanna be working with your wrap in at least 50-degree temperatures. So I'll see you down in the basement. Okay, we're in the basement here. As you can see, I just wanna make a quick note. I have my vinyl laid out on the workbench here. Of course, it comes pretty tightly rolled up, and that's not going to make your life easy for wrapping. Let it flatten out on its own. I don't know, do this maybe an hour before you plan to wrap. Just place a couple weights on either corner and give it some time to chill. So I've got all my trim pieces laid out on the workbench here, and not everyone shows you how to do this, but I'm going to show you how to remove the air vents on both pieces of trim so we can get the cleanest cut possible. I'm also going to show you how to separate the silver gear shift trim from this black plastic, and of course I'm going to show you how to remove the iDrive controller from the center console trim. Let's start off with the left dash trim here. It's a little bit easier than the center dash trim. The only tool you'll need to do this is a little flathead screwdriver. Flip the trim around here. There are multiple tabs in the bottom. We're not going to worry about any of those. Just going to come to the top here. There are 3 tabs up at the top of the vent here. Just going to insert our flathead screwdriver and pry up like so on the 3 tabs like that. And as you can see, that separates the trim from the climate control vent here. You can just set this aside for now. Obviously, we do still have this black frame around the trim here, but not having that vent in the way is going to help us to make sure the vinyl lays completely flat, reducing the amount of creases and ultimately making less work for ourselves. Very similar process on the center dash trim here. It's much easier to see on these vents. There are these 3 tabs at the top, 1, 2, 3. I want to pry up the end tab here, pop that up. You're gonna need to continue to press down on this vent so that this tab doesn't pop in. Move on to the second one, pop that one out, and the third and final one down on the end. So this one is now popped out, but of course the 2 vents are connected in the center. We have to repeat the same process over on the other side here. There we go. So that separates the trim from these 2 climate control vents in the center here. Next we'll be removing the iDrive controller from the center console trim here. So we just have 3 T20 Torx screws here. And that will allow you to remove the iDrive controller here, which will allow our work to be a lot more clean around this edge here. And finally, let's talk about removing this silver gear shift trim from this black plastic piece. They use a rather strange form of fastening the silver piece on here. It's this rivet type fastener, and they aren't permanent. We can remove them. I'm gonna show you here how we can do that. You're gonna need a really small flathead, and you're gonna put it in one of these little cracks, bend these little teeth out, and that will allow it to come off. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 of these little fasteners. I'm gonna go around the edge and take care of them all. Removing all these little fasteners will separate the 2 pieces. As you can see here, we now have our silver trim separate from the black trim, which is gonna allow us to do a much more clean job here. All right, so everything's ready now. We have 2, 4, 6, 8 pieces of trim to wrap. So it is important to get your vinyl laid out. We're gonna flip this over and check out the direction of the pattern, and we want to get planned out in our head here the direction of the carbon fiber pattern and how that's gonna match up on all of our pieces of trim. All right, I have this all laid out, and I'm gonna have my diagonal pattern going in this direction because I think that'll match up nicely with this piece of trim. So it goes diagonally like that corner over there. So we're gonna grab this piece of trim, come over to our vinyl sheet, And ignore these crinkles, they're gonna go away once we peel the vinyl off of the backing. Grab myself some scissors for this smaller cut here. For longer cuts, of course, you'll want one of these knives. I'll have a link to these down in the description. It's like $5 for this pack of 3. And on that note, I'll have links to everything in the description. I'll have a link to this vinyl, these knives, this rapid prep cleaner, some microfibers. So back to this, we're just gonna leave ourselves, I don't know, about an inch of extra material around the edge. I'm gonna cut this out. So I'm gonna grab that and do that with my scissors right now. As you can see, it's just a really rough cut piece here. Doesn't really matter. The final trimming and actual wrap work is what matters. As you can see, when we go to wrap this piece of trim, it's gonna wanna rock back and forth on the table here. It's not gonna make our life easy. So I grabbed myself a little pair of vice grips and I'm gonna adjust it. I'm gonna tighten it down just a little bit here. And what we can do with this is clamp it onto our piece of trim, right on that clip there. And that'll prevent this from rocking back and forth, and it'll elevate it just a little bit off the towel here. I'm gonna give the trim one spray of this rapid prep cleaner. It removes oils, greases, dirt, etc. So we do wanna make sure this is very clean before installing our wrap to prevent any air bubbles. And I'll take one microfiber to wipe it down here. Make sure to get the back edge as well. And we'll take a separate microfiber to dry it off. And yeah, we're good to go. In case you guys are wondering, I'll be using this Porter cable heat gun. I like it a lot. It has 2 fan settings right here on this switch and a variable temperature switch. I have this at max. I'm gonna put it about 3/4 here. I really like it because you can just set it on its back and leave it running and let it heat up. You don't have to worry about it burning anything like your work surface. I'll have a link to this down in the description, of course. So get the heat gun going. I'm gonna preheat the vinyl a little bit here before removing the backing. Also, you can put a little bit of heat into the plastic trim if you want to. And we'll peel the vinyl off. Now, this is where it's important. We need to remember the direction of the pattern. So, as I said, I want the pattern going in this direction, diagonal. So, we're gonna remember that when placing it down here. So just get it lightly into place initially here, and immediately you're gonna wanna put some heat into it. And you'll see the vinyl is going to form to your piece of trim. Now, having all of this excess is gonna make your life a lot more difficult when trying to work on the vinyl, because it's gonna stick to your work surface. It's just annoying. So you're gonna wanna take something and trim off almost all the excess. Leave about, I don't know, 1/4, 1/2 inch. So whenever you get these little creases called fingers, you're gonna wanna put some heat into the vinyl. You may have to pull it up and readjust the positioning of the vinyl to get it to lay flat. You're gonna have to have some patience. Don't get frustrated. It is easy to get frustrated, but as you can see, just in about 30 seconds there, within lifting it up and readjusting the positioning of the vinyl here, I got it to lay flat. As you can see, got rid of all those little creases here. So the key is applying heat, lifting up the vinyl, and readjusting the position of it until you get to sit how you want it to. I am going to show you, before I continue to work on this, the process of cutting out the center. So you're going to want to apply quite a bit of heat into the center part of the trim here. It's going to help form that center cut. As you can see, heating it up and pressing down on that edge gets that vinyl to stick to the edge, and it reveals exactly where we need to cut. As you can see, heating it up and just pressing my finger along the edge has revealed those lines. So of course we don't want to cut exactly on those lines. We do want to leave a little bit of excess material. So I'm going to cut about 1/4 inch inside that line. Now, I believe I may have said in my previous wrapping video to cut in on the corners. Now, you can do this. It's going to make it easier to fold in this inner edge of vinyl, but it is kind of risky because you do risk revealing the piece of trim underneath. So I'm going to try, before cutting in on the corners, to just heat this up and try to roll this edge in and affix it to this inner edge. So So I got this edge to lie pretty much flat. I am still having a little difficulty in this corner here. As you can see, it's not fully affixed to the edge. I'm gonna apply a little more heat and then try pushing it in. Nice. Got that to affix to that corner really nicely. This edge is really clean. So I'm gonna continue that process around the inside edge here. Then I'm gonna apply the same concept to the outside edge and just work on any of these tiny little imperfections to make sure this thing looks awesome. You may not want to make cuts on the inside corners here, but you do definitely want to make some relief cuts on the outside corners. When you try to wrap around a corner and you try to secure this to the back, you're going to have a lot of creasing in this corner here. So to relieve some of that creasing and pressure from happening, we're going to cut out basically a little square in the corner here. We want to cut in almost all the way to the piece of trim, just a little notch. And what that's going to allow us to do is to fold down each side individually without having any of that creasing in the middle. Alright, just finished up this gear shift trim here, and guys, not to brag, but damn, this came out wicked nice. Just look at that carbon fiber in the light. Oh, I love it. As you can see here, really clean edges all the way around. I really took my time with this piece and I'm very happy with how it came out. Now let's reinstall it on this black plastic piece here. But first I'm going to give it a quick wipe down because you can see there's some residue and dirt around the edges. Just going to reinsert it here. So let's get it secured here. It's going to be difficult for me to show you, but basically what you're going to want to do is take your little flathead and just press down on the 4 tabs that press down on this central post, and that will re-secure this fastener. So we're going to do that all the way around until this piece of trim is re-secured. All reinstalled, and damn does that look good. I am really hyped. This looks awesome. Clean edges all the way around, as I said. Just take your time with this stuff and it'll come out great. And I'm now moving on to the center console idrive trim. So we're going to take this over to our vinyl sheet here. You may be tempted to place this up here, but remember how I said I wanted all of the carbon fiber going in the same direction? That's important to remember because we are going to have to position it right here, because as you can see, this piece has the carbon fiber going in this direction, and we're going to want that to match up on our center console trim here. So every time you bring a part over to measure it out and cut out your piece of vinyl, do remember the orientation of your carbon fiber pattern. Now this center trim here is going to be pretty much the identical process as this piece of trim. I'm not going to give you the step-by-step instructions because it's the same instructions. So I'm just going to crank this out. I am going to check back in with you when we're moving on to the vent trim. I'm going to work on this and I'll check back in when we're doing that. Just finished up the center console trim here. Look at that. Look at that trim. Oh my god. I'm in love. Alright, can we just take a second and appreciate, look how smooth that edge is. Oh my gosh. I took my time with this and I'm really happy with how it came out. As you can see, I tucked it really tight. If I can get this to focus. Tucked it tight around all the edges. Made sure it was very well affixed, and I'm really happy with this. Not gonna lie, this center piece was far easier than this little gear shift piece. Working with these really small acute angles and difficult round edges is much more challenging than working with a big piece where you can just lay out the vinyl, and the vinyl really does a lot of the work for you when you're working on a big piece that it can just kind of drape over. So if you can do this little gear shift piece, you can do the center console piece with ease. Okay, moving on to this piece of trim here. As you can see, I have my piece cut out with plenty of overlapping material. I give it a quick spray down. And we'll begin laying down our material, focusing on the silver part of this trim. As you can see, another benefit to removing this air vent on the back of the trim, obviously this is not able to lie flat on the workbench if you have this vent on the back here. It's going to make it a lot more difficult to work on. So I do highly recommend removing the air vent, which will allow the piece of trim to sit flat on our work surface. As you can see, I'm beginning to get this to form to the silver piece of trim. We do have a few concave angles to work with, so I am probably going to make some relief cuts on the corners, but let's not worry about that until we have this trimmed out. Now that I've got this trimmed out, I'm going to make those relief cuts that I was talking about in the corners here. Same process as before. We're just going to apply heat and rework the corner of this piece of trim until we can eliminate these fingers. As you can see, it is lying flat over here on this top flat part of the trim, but of course on the concave corner we're going to encounter some of these fingers, so just apply some heat, be patient, and work it out. Right now I want to focus on getting this corner completed right here. Then we're going to make our cut along the black frame here and peel off all this excess vinyl here. Alright, so I got all my corners worked out, got it laid out how I want to, and then I applied a lot of heat around the frame here. As weird as it sounds, I ran my fingernail down around the frame here and it revealed exactly where we need to cut. If my camera will focus here, see we have a nice line all the way around, exactly where we need to cut. So we'll take our knife and very carefully we're going to make our cut down this line, and then we can peel off all this excess. Alright, I've just made my cut, and now the moment of truth. Let's see if I made a good cut or if I effed it all up. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Look at that. That's sick. And here's the piece of trim with the air vent reinstalled. I think it looks awesome. I'm really happy with this. We're going to apply the same cut concept to this larger piece of trim back here. It's the identical process, just on a larger scale. So I'm not going to go into detail about each and every step. I'm going to work on this a bit, and then I'll show you the process of wrapping the door handle trim. I've got all my little fingers worked out and all the little air bubbles, and I was about to wrap this huge top edge here around the back, but I've been thinking, and I think it would come out even cleaner and it'd be a lot less work if I just cut that top edge, especially because it's going to be in the back and we won't really see the seam. So obviously I didn't do that on the smaller left piece. I wrapped around the back, but I feel like this could come out cleaner, so we're gonna give it a shot. Hopefully I have enough extra material if I mess up, but yeah, I think this will work out nice, so here we go. Finished up the center dash trim here, and I am super stoked with how it came out. Check this out, guys. Super clean edges all the way around. Very clean top edge and side edge near the start stop button, and I really couldn't be happier. This came out nearly flawless. Can't wait to see it in the car. With the dash trim complete, we're now gonna move on to a piece of door handle trim. Now, it's sort of a nuisance to wrap this curved piece of door trim on a flat surface because it's difficult, because your vinyl is going to be getting all over the towel, losing its adhesion and getting all dirty. So I'm going to take this and head over to the vise and I'll show you what we're going to do. So we've come over to the bench vise here because it's going to make our life a lot easier wrapping this door trim. So I'm going to take this little pair of locking vice grips. I'm just going to clamp it onto one of these little tabs. And we can now take our trim and this pair of vice grips and lock it into the vise here. That's gonna raise this entire piece of trim up off of the work surface. This way we can drape our vinyl right over it and not have it touch the table. Now there really isn't gonna be anything terribly different about wrapping this piece of trim. We're gonna wipe it down with our rapid prep, make sure it's clean and dry, ready to go. Drape the vinyl over it, heat it up, and begin forming it. We don't have any air conditioning vents to cut around or any of those complicated cuts. However, this piece of trim does have significantly more curvature, which is just gonna make working with it a little bit more difficult and time consuming. Just don't lose your patience, keep working on it, and it will come out okay. I'm thinking I'm gonna apply the same concept as the last piece of trim, and rather than wrapping around the back side, I'm just gonna cut along the edge. So I'm gonna get working on this and I'll check in with you in a few. Okay, I just been applying heat, lifting it up and readjusting it, and as you can see, it's forming pretty well. I have a few fingers along the top here that I have to take care of, but honestly not too bad. Alright, I trimmed off all the excess, took a bit more time with it, and it's really taking shape now. So I'm going to do a bit more. Actually, no, I'm not even going to trim anymore. I'm going to make a little bit better of a recess cut, and I'm going to take this back to the nicer open workbench, and we'll start making our cuts and trimming the edges. Just trimmed this and finished it up, and wow, it never ceases to amaze me how realistic this looks and how good it looks after you've trimmed it. As you can see, the edges came out very smooth. 3 more of these to go. Obviously, I'm not going to show you the process of that 3 more times. I'll probably be checking back in with you when I'm installing this in the car, or actually, you know what? Nobody cares about me installing this. Let's cut to the edit.
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video demonstrating how to carbon fiber wrap your interior trim. Yes, it definitely takes some time and it takes a lot of patience, but for the cost, it's definitely well worth it. I just absolutely love the look of this everywhere. The contrast with the red stitching, I just absolutely love it. Also, as much of a hassle as it was, I'm really glad that I split apart this silver piece of trim from the black plastic here. I think it looks awesome. Some people wrap this entire piece, but I think it's nice to have this divide between the 2 pieces of carbon. But overall, super happy with how it came out. I do have more carbon fiber planned for the interior here, but I'm gonna leave that a mystery until next time. If you found this video helpful or just enjoyed watching, please leave a like below. Subscribe if you've yet to do so. Tune in for more content. I'll see you guys next time on JD Cars.